Today's episode is a really juicy one, guys. And what I want to ask is, as you're listening, if you feel like, oh my God, thank goodness, I really want to feel like it's safe for my man to provide and protect, or I do feel that way and I didn't really agree with this viral reel in terms of like how everybody was responding to it as though he was saying like the most horrible thing about women in the world, because as we'll get into it, he really was saying nothing horrible at all, but women were absolutely up in arms. As you're listening, if you resonate with what I'm saying, if you appreciate what I'm saying, and if you understand the importance of getting this message out to women so that women out there that do feel like I don't want to work all the time, or I want to be a stay-at-home mom, or I'd like my man to be the provider and the protector, I want them to realize that is not a dangerous or wrong thing. I don't want them to have all this fear in their mind because people have been like responding to this guy's Instagram reel as though it's like the worst thing that somebody could have ever said in the world. I'm deeply concerned about the collection of women that this is hurting. And a lot of them are even the women that have commented on this post because they have got in their heads that it's bad to let a man provide and protect for them. So please, 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 if you feel called, share the episode on your Instagram story so that more women can get this message like in their body, in their mind, especially if you're Australian listening to this, because I know this went absolutely ballistic and like got into the newspaper in Australia. And I really, really, really just want women that feel like, oh my God, shit, I'm going to like be financially abused if a man leads me, which is absolutely not true. I don't want them to feel that way. I want them to have permission to be the woman that they want to be and to be in a relationship with the kind of man that they want to be in a relationship with. Hello, everybody. You guys are so ready for this episode, and I wish that I could have gotten to it faster when this reel went viral, but we're here now. I've been very busy. Anyway, so if you haven't seen, there's this viral reel that has been going around. It's by an Australian guy, and essentially women are up in fucking arms about what this guy is saying. And I've never had so many of you DM me asking for me to give my thoughts on a particular topic. And honestly, usually I just don't get involved because I'm just like, this is going to like blow over in like 5 seconds. But I think there's a lot to say in this. I think there's a lot that women can learn. And more importantly, I'm deeply concerned of how damaging these comments are to other women and of course to men. Because the comments on this Instagram reel are disturbing, to say the least, like extremely disturbing. And it's fear-mongering. It's fear-mongering for women. So let me just give the context of this. And what I firstly want to say is that I've listened to the whole podcast episode, and this guy did not talk about this in some derogatory way for 1 hour. In fact, he was talking about business and YouTube and whatnot to this other Australian guy, and they went on a tangent to start talking about work and relationships and that kind of stuff. And you know what? What they said was very fucking true. So I've listened to the episode, and I've also pulled in a few of the other things that he said where I'm like, what he's saying, guys, is true. And when I'm saying is true, I am stating this based on the anecdotal evidence that I have from doing this work for nearly a decade, where the number one thing that women come to me with is I want my man to lead. I want to feel protected and provided. I'm exhausted by doing it all. And so all these women, let me just firstly just say this. So basically what he's talking about is that in his reel, what he's saying, and then in the podcast, there's like an extended version of it. The reason why I wanted to listen to the podcast, by the way, is to just really make sure I had all the context. So that took a little bit of time to listen to that. But as I'm listening, I'm like, when are we getting to this bit? Because like, that's not what he was talking about. Anyway, so basically what he's saying in this episode is that if his woman doesn't want to work, then if his woman doesn't want to work because she doesn't enjoy it, he doesn't want to make her work. And I'm like, all of you here listening are probably like, I want my man to say that. Like, that sounds fucking amazing. But of course, the women in the comments, they are up in arms saying how sexist this is. This is monogamy. This is misogyny, blah, blah, blah. So we're going to get into that, but just to give you the context of this. And truly what he's saying, in my opinion, there is nothing wrong with what he's saying. And what I also want to say before we even get into this is, if you are a Karen and you are just here, except Karen, my client that's in her year, I love you. every time Olivia and I was saying this, every time I say like, don't be a Karen, I just think of you and I'm like, yeah, but not you. So if you are a nice Karen, I'm not talking about you, but just don't be that person. It's just not a high value trait. Do not be that person that if they don't agree with something needs to like slander somebody else. I don't know. I just think that's like a really low quality trait to have. So if you don't agree with what I'm saying and you're listening to this episode because, I don't know, you saw it on Instagram or something and you're like, oh, I want to see what this bitch has to say. If you don't agree with me, that's completely fine, because guess what? We live in this beautiful world where we are adults and we are all entitled to our own opinion. And being entitled to your own opinion means that you can just be like, I don't agree, and then move on with your life. It doesn't mean that you have to rip somebody down and be awful to somebody through the comments section or whatnot. And I really do feel sorry for this guy, because he said nothing to actually be concerned about. And there are even men in the comments, not very many, but there's a few men that kind of like are in the mental health space and whatnot, talking about how negative this is and like it's, misogyny and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, do you know what the word misogyny means? Truly. Look it up, because this is not misogyny. This, like, what he is saying, him saying, if my woman doesn't want to work, then I don't want her to work. That is not misogyny. He is not saying a woman should not be allowed to work. And you know what? Even if he said that, yeah, I'd be like, dude, what the fuck? Why are you putting that online? Like, you're not going to get a lot of love with that one. But you know what? If he said, I actually would really like to be with a woman that doesn't want to work and she wants to raise a family and stay at home with the kids, he's fucking entitled to that. And I bet you $1 million, if he said that, or if another man said that online, women would be up in arms in the comments of like how sexist this is and blah, blah, blah. But if a woman put out an Instagram reel or a podcast and said, I want my man to go to work, to make money, and to be the provider and the protector, would she get any shit for it? No. So this whole thing, when women love to throw out this word when it's not actually like correctly used, by the way, different to when it's correctly used, obviously. Women love to throw out, that's sexist, that's misogynistic, blah, blah, blah. But what the funny thing is, if you flipped it, it would be fine. And so this is my whole point of when it comes to like, this radical feminism and all of this, when you actually think about it, it is deeply hurtful. It is hurtful because it is a double standard. But what it is also doing, and more importantly, what it's also doing, is that it is making the collection of women that want their man to provide them and protect them, that don't want to work, that would love to be with a man that would say to them, honey, if you don't want to work and our money is sorted, you don't need to work. It makes them feel shame. That is my concern with these comments. The context of this is extremely important. Do not get into a relationship where 2 weeks in, he's like, if you don't want to work, you don't have to work. Like, I'll look after you. Like, I don't know whether you trust the guy yet. Like, you've known him for 2 weeks, right? But the context of how he's saying this is if they were married. That's the context of this. The context of this is, if you actually listen to the episode, which I bet you nobody fucking did in the comments, if you actually listen to the episode, you would be able to feel his heart and his love in what he's saying. Because what he's saying is coming from this very genuine place as a clearly masculine man who wants to provide and protect. And when you actually listen to it, the two of them are praising women. The two of them are talking about how incredible women are. They're talking about how women act as such motivators for men. That he was like, if there weren't women in the world, I'd probably just be like out in the surf all day, right? But he's talking about how women play a really big role, in his opinion, of motivating men to like go and be successful. And you know what? It's true. It is extremely true. We know it in the research. There is literally research that proves the exact observation that he is making. This isn't just like, he's not even just, he's probably pulling it out of his ass, like he hasn't read the research, but there is actual research in this, which is why there's this whole problem these days that a lot of researchers are talking about, where you've got these younger boys and, like teenagers and younger adult men, where we are deeply concerned about them because of like how the dating landscape has changed and the post-Me Too era and everything like that, because they're not having the same level of motivation from women. And I won't go down that because that's a whole other episode that I can definitely do for you guys when I come back on maternity leave. Because I actually talk about it a lot in my book. If you haven't gotten my book, that would be a really good thing to accompany everything I'm saying today, because also there's so much research in my book that obviously is also backing up what we're going to be talking about today. So let me just start by playing you guys this reel. And then I want to jump into, I saw some Australians, won't name names, obviously, but I need to go back to the beginning, doing, like responses to this. And the responses that she was so triggered. And so I was like, hey, honey, you need to like go have an orgasm or something. But she was so triggered. It was very obvious and like angry. And it was just like a massive projection of her own. And she was saying stuff that I'll mention to you in a second, where I'm like, you literally like have not listened to what he said. So let me start from the beginning. It's probably going to have to cut and then go back a little bit, guys, because he goes like straight into the sentence and I don't want you to miss that. Okay, so I'm going to play it and hopefully you guys can hear it properly.
If you feel the need to go and work to make money and then you come home and you're complaining about your day when we don't need you to make money because we're sorted, if we've got 4 hours to spend in the afternoon and I ask you, how was your day today, babe? I want your eyes to light up with excitement with whatever the fuck it was. I collected 4 postcards today.
And that's energy awesome. Too. It's so good.
So let me just stop there. So the first thing that is so important that, but I don't think anybody in the comments of this actually cared to listen to, was he said, if she doesn't want to work. He did not say she's not allowed to work. He didn't even say, I don't want her to work, which, you know what, would also have been, he's also allowed to say, I don't want my woman to work. I want her to, do whatever makes her happy. I don't want her to be miserable from working a shitty job. He's also allowed to say that, right? And like, because that's his opinion. But taking his opinion out of it and kind of what he did or didn't say, the key thing was that he said, if she doesn't want to work, okay? And I just also want to say, I feel like people are just such children online these days, right? In terms of like the whole opinion. But if you listen to the actual whole episode, so he says, we go back to the beginning. So he says, if she doesn't want to work, then I don't want her to work. And then he said, and then what's really important, if you listen to the episode and then he kind of says this again in it, is essentially like, if they're sorted, if we don't need her to work, if we don't need the money. So he's not saying like, oh, we're okay to just be poor and not have food on the table because like she shouldn't work. He never said that, right? All of these negative comments, do you know what they all are? They are projections of people's own shit. They are assumptions. They are people that they have listened to this one thing. They've gotten on their high horse of like, fuck this dude. When actually, when you don't even need to listen to the whole entire episode, right? Everyone was sending this to me and I was listening to just this. And I was like, why is people, literally to me, I'm like, why are people so up in arms? Like he didn't say anything wrong. Like I get that some people could maybe be pissed off because, if they didn't like get the context of it, that they were pissed off that he said, I want my woman to go on hot girl walks, as though like that maybe is like a derogatory comment. But also I'm just like, but every woman online is like hot girl walk. Every woman is showing their hot girl walks. And as soon as a man says, I'd love her to go on a hot girl walk, now it's derogatory, but we can all have this like fucking hashtag hot girl walk on our Instagram. Like the double standard just makes no sense. And this is why men say, I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. This is why men don't come up to you in the bar. This is why men are afraid to lead on dates. This is why men are afraid to pick you up on a date. They're afraid to pay for a date. They're afraid to ask you to be their girlfriend. They're afraid to come up to you on the side of the street. Where, all these women in the comments, I guarantee you, like probably not you guys listening that are like long-term followers, if you're a long-term follower, but all these women in the comments that are just going up in arms. I'm like, how's your sex life? Truly, how's your sex life? Like how is your relationship with men? Do you feel protected by them? Do you feel supported? Do you feel like you can relax into your feminine? Are you exhausted? Are you burnt out? Are you wearing your fucking Miss Independent as like a badge of honor? Like truly, how are you? Because what's so concerning about all of this is this kind of like, there are no good men out there. All men are this, all men are that. But then at the same time, this is how women behave to men and to men that have done quite literally nothing wrong. And so it's just, it's weird to me that people don't just shut up. Like, I don't know how else to say it. To me, I'm just like, if you don't like something, just move on with your life, because there's more comments on this than there are likes, which is like really weird. Anyway, So the key thing in what we've just played so far is that he said if she doesn't want to work, she doesn't have to work. And I think that's fucking amazing. You know, that's what every woman that finds my podcast and falls in love with it, they're deeply craving this. If you aren't yet deeply craving this in your relationship for your man to feel like the provider and the protector, you're probably lying to yourself. And you're probably going to be back here in a few years' time hiring me. You know, not to say, I want to make this really clear. I've done episodes on this, not to say that you have to be in like this surrendered, receptive state. If you are new here, I would love for you to go and listen to, so that you don't get the wrong idea of this, I would love for you to go to listen to a recent episode of what it actually takes to be in your feminine. There are plenty of episodes about this. Being in your feminine, my whole kind of definition of it is absolutely not just like letting your man do whatever he wants and like you're just there to like be in the kitchen. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. I mean, look at me. And it's so funny when people leave comments or leave reviews about my book. For those of you that want to spice up your love life, if you have not listened or watched, you could listen or you could watch it, to my free masterclass on how to have him lead you, you are missing out and you want to grab that right now. This masterclass is basically guiding you on how to step out of that mothering and fully embrace being his lover. It's 1 hour with me and it's really going to help you to figure out why he's not leading. And then what you can do to support him in stepping into his masculine leadership and claiming you and being that protector that you're really craving him to be. So you can register at the link below in the podcast notes. And this is for you if you are dating or in a relationship and you're wanting to feel wanted by him. You do not want to be nagging him anymore. You want to feel protected and provided for. You want to feel that soul nourishing juiciness that comes from a man that is just claiming you, leading you, and having all of that masculine energy. Like if you want to be told, I'm picking you up at 8 p.m. or this is what we're doing, or like get into bed right now, I need to ravish you or take your clothes off, this masterclass is absolutely what you need. And what I'm going to break down for you guys in the masterclass is the difference between men and women and the differences that we need to pay attention to. I'm also going to walk you through the 4 possible causes as to why he's not leading you. And then of course, what you need to do. I'm going to go through the difference between the lover and the mother archetypes. I'm going to walk you through what the feminine actually wants and how to get her needs met, your needs met, if you're a woman listening to this, and then the 3 steps to get him to lead you for good. So if you want the masterclass, click the link below and you can register for free. Let me know your thoughts on it. I've been really, really enjoying doing these masterclasses for you guys. It's a little bit of like a different way to deliver some of this juicy content and having that visual aspect as well. And like a vibey backdrop. You guys know I'm like a sucker for a vibe. So yeah, link is below and let's jump back into the episode. Like I saw a book review yesterday and it was so clear that the chick hadn't actually read the book, because she was like, I can't remember exactly what she said, but she was basically something like she's telling women that like feminism is bad, blah, 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 when like she has gained so much from feminism. Like she literally is a girl boss. And I'm like, this literally tells you, one, you haven't read the book, but also that's my whole point. I'm not saying, he's not saying either that you should just be in the kitchen and that's all a woman is meant to do. And that's absolutely not what I'm saying, because like, look at me, right? I'm the breadwinner. I'm 9 months pregnant. I'm doing a podcast. I have a business. Like my book became a New York Times bestseller. That's not what feminine energy is. So go listen to those episodes if you feel like you need that. You know, but my whole concern of this is just how women have manipulated his words. And so many women come to me and tell me, and the reason why I have the following that I have and why I have the podcast that I have is because women are craving men to lead more. That is our biology. Like we literally are healthier when we have that safety. And yet this is the kind of, you know, way that we behave. All right, let's keep listening to it.
If we've got 4 hours to spend in the afternoon and I ask you, how was your day today, babe? I want your eyes to light up with excitement with whatever the fuck it was. I collected 4 postcards today.
And that's energy awesome too. It's so good.
Okay, so then he goes on to say, and again, if you listen to the whole episode, there's a bit more context to it. He then goes on to talk about how if we have 4 hours in our afternoon when we come home from work, which is true for a lot of couples, they have, you know, between 6 and 10 p.m. essentially to hang out. He doesn't want you complaining all day. Now, a lot of women took that, which I just think, again, shows the way that people filter information. A lot of women seem to take that as though you're not allowed to complain as a woman. you can't go to work and have a bad day. Like, I don't want to hear about it. You need to be this Miss Positivity all the time. I didn't take it like that, because this is just in the heat of a moment in a conversation. What he was saying, if you listen to it, is I don't want you to do a job that you hate, where then every afternoon when we have 4 hours to spend together, you come home and you're complaining about your day. And I get that, because you know what? I wouldn't want my husband either to go to a job that he fucking hates, and every afternoon I have to hear that. I don't want to hear it. Because who does? Who wants to spend those 4 hours a day with their partner just hearing about how shit their day was because how much they hate their job? Nobody. You wouldn't want to hear it either. And yet again, it's been flipped as though he's making some misogynistic comment, when actually, you know what? He's making a truthful comment. That's what he's doing. He's making a truthful comment. Now, the one part that I could see being slightly problematic. Oh, and he was saying, I want her eyes to light up, blah, blah, blah. They were talking about how important it is for a woman to have, and for a man too, to have passion. Right. And they were talking about how, like, you know, he isn't just saying, I want my woman to just sit around and do nothing all day. That's not what he was saying at all. He was saying he wants his woman to be passionate about something. They literally was saying it could be braiding Barbie's hair. It could be collecting postcards. He's like, I don't care what it is, but I want my woman's eyes to light up when she is talking about the thing that she's passionate about. And that is everybody across the board. That is every man across the board. Hal actually talks about that even in Be a Lover, Not a Mother. And he's talked about it at the immersions before, of like, one of the most attractive things that he loves about me is how much I light up when I'm doing my job. Because every man wants to be with a woman that is lit up by something. And it could literally be postcards. It could be that you're lit up by mothering. It could be that you're lit up by cooking. It can be anything. But a man is deeply attracted to a woman that has this sense of passion in her life. Deeply attracted to that, because men are attracted to just like this light that naturally beams out of us. It's our feminine essence, right? The masculine is attracted to that. He is not saying that you are like less than if you don't have that in your life. Your husband doesn't love you less if you're going through a hard moment in your time when you're missing that light. No, he wants you to have that light because he wants you to be happy, right? Like, men get so worried when their woman is going through, for example, like postpartum depression, not because he's like, she should be happy all the time. That's not what he's thinking. He loves you. So he's like, I want her to be happy. Like, I want her to have this zest that she used to have. Like, where is that gone? Because that lit him up, but that also, of course, lit her up, obviously, because she was fucking lit up by it. So that was the second bit that they were talking about with the postcard things, right? Now, this bit, this next sentence, I understand, like, he didn't word it like in the best way. But again, I just think that if you have that kind of lens, then of course you're going to see it like that. This was the one thing that he said that I was like, okay, maybe this is a little bit problematic. So I'll play it. But what he basically said was like that calm, harmony, peace, and love that a man that's got a busy life, that's chasing after he said, it's that calm, harmony, peace, and love that a man that's got a busy life, that's chasing after his dream, needs when he's trying to wind down. That bit I understood could be taken the wrong way, because it's like, I'm not responsible for you, you know, being in this constant state of like calm, harmony, peace. And why is that my responsibility to uphold for you in order to be successful? But I think that he meant it more in the way, because the whole episode was talking about being successful as a man. That's what the whole episode was talking about, right? And building this success, and everything he said, I was like, this is fucking great. Some Gen Alphas and Gen Zs need to listen to this, right? It's about hard work and determination and focus, and how, like, you know, if you're focused, for example, on your business as a man, then you're not going to be able to give the same attention to like dating, you know, so like maybe you shouldn't, like, it makes sense if you're not dating at the same time and that kind of stuff. And it's about like priorities and like what's really important to you and all that kind of stuff. So the context of when you understand all of that, it then makes sense of like, okay, we're talking about a man becoming successful. And if a man is in a relationship with a woman as he's becoming successful, he doesn't need a woman that's dragging him down. Obviously, just like if you as a woman are trying to grow and be successful, you don't need your partner dragging you down. Not helpful. Like, you don't need your man dragging you down. But it's because he said his woman that, of course, everyone's up in arms. Okay, let's listen.
It's the calm, it's the harmony, it's the peace and love that a man that's got a busy life that's chasing his dreams needs when he's trying to wind down. This is why I heavily encourage hot girl walks. I would love my partner to go on a hot girl walk with her friends every day.
Awesome.
She gets this feminine energy, they get to talk their shit, and then they get to have a bit of excitement about their day. I don't think a girl needs to go through challenge, pain, and hardship to be an amazing girl. I think she can fill her days with passion-filled things and still be amazing.
Okay. I loved the last sentence, by the way, but of course other people hated it. So the hot girl walks, like I was saying before, he was saying, like, I love my girl to go on a hot girl walk. I just love how that got people so up in arms for a man to say, I would love for you to go on a hot girl walk, yet we all say it to each other of hot girl walks and like to ourselves. But all he's saying, again, you know what he's actually saying, and what he probably doesn't realize he's saying it, but it's what I've spoken about to you guys before. He is not your best friend. Your husband, your partner, your boyfriend is not your best friend. He shouldn't be. Do not dump what needs to get dumped to your girlfriends onto your husband. Hal's talked about this before. He talked about it on the recent Be Love Another Mother module that we did as well. And I'm so about it. And sometimes he reminds me of it too, of babe, it's a girlfriend thing, not a me thing. Because there is a time and a place where it's like, if I just want to, you know, if I want a woman to understand me or I want to just like chat the shit, it's not him, right? Because men are not natural born communicators. And there's something really, really healthy about that sense of like mystery and not sharing every tiny fucking thought in your head to your partner. And I feel like people these days think our partner needs to be our best friend. Is Hal my best friend in the sense that he's my favorite person in the world? Yes. But he's not my best friend in the sense of like, I don't tell him what I tell my girlfriends. Like that's two completely separate things. And that separation is also a really healthy thing. He doesn't tell me what he talks to with his guy friends about. That's also a really healthy thing. It allows us to get like, it allows us to get a better version of each other as well, which is also really important in the relationship. But the last thing that he said in this, and then I'm going to kind of go on some of the things that other women were saying in the comments, the main one being like, this is how financial abuse happens. So just hang tight for that one. But he said, I don't think a girl needs to go through challenge, hardship, and pain to be an amazing girl. I have this like slight ick, by the way, when people talk about, or like when men say girl when they mean woman, because I'm like, wrong terminology. But that's just like a me thing. Like a tiny ick, but I can get over that. But I really liked what he said because it's true. It's what I talk about with you guys all the time. Like, we as women do not need to go through all of this. And he's not saying, you know, like we've all gone through hardship and challenge. Like that's just part of the human experience. But what he's saying, and in the context of what he's saying it, is that he doesn't think we need to grind our gears till we're knocking on death's door or burnout's door in order to be this amazing, successful woman. He's saying like, that is us inherently. We are worthy of that inherently. Everything that he has shared in the episode, it comes from a true place of I want to love, protect, and provide. Like, you know what they were also talking about in the episode that I absolutely love? They were talking about how they think it's really wrong when men that don't have an intention to like date or marry this woman just kind of fuck around with her. They were saying how it's really disrespectful and it's not nice to her and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, these are beautiful men, from what I've gathered at least, on this episode, talking in a very respectful way about women and all that kind of stuff. And here we are as women just being like, not enough, not perfect enough, not this enough, not that enough. And at the same time, the women that are also like, meh, they're also complaining about men all the time and wanting men to be better. But no matter what a man does, it is still not good enough. And this is a really big problem that I've talked about with you guys before, and I will continue to talk about, and I'm not going to go too down this rabbit hole, but it is a really big problem that I constantly see where women are like, men aren't enough. And now there are some men, of course, that are not, you know, up to the caliber, or they are behaving negatively, or they are very unhealthy men, or they are abusive. Like, I'm not talking about them. What I'm talking about is this problem where you have perfectly good men. And we have it, you know, this particular woman has it in her head of, this man isn't good enough for me. Now, maybe he's actually not right for you, but he's not right for you. You guys have different values. He's not what you want. You're not on the same page about some things. It's not that he's not good enough for you. It's that he's not right for you. Change the language, because he's plenty right for another woman. But when you have this narrative in your head of no man is enough, no man is enough, do you know what the problem becomes? Is men, and Hal talks about this. I kind of reminded some of you guys is on this recent Be Loved on a Mother module that we did together of, women are just nitpicking and nitpicking. And then your reticular activating system, all it sees is negative. So you aren't happy. So you're bitter, right? And we forget that women are bitches too. And I say that in the sense of there are plenty of things that you do that annoy the shit out of your partner, that your partner doesn't like, that your partner wishes that were different. But does he put on you, women are enough, women are enough, women are... No, men don't do that. Men don't do that. Of course, there are some men out there. I'm saying generally speaking. So we have this problem where men don't feel like they're enough no matter what they do for a woman. And women feel like they are either asking for too much, which half the time they are, by the way, because they're asking for perfection. And it's like, look in the mirror, you're not perfect. So if you haven't seen, I have released a program called Empoweredly Submissive. And this is a fantabulous, yes, fantabulous, beginners kind of program into all of this work. So whether it is that you're wanting to dip your toes into the world of nervous system regulation and feminine energy and, stepping into your boundaries and self-confidence and self-trust, there is something in this program for you. It is an elevated, luxurious, beautiful program. The energy in it is obviously immaculate, but more importantly, what I actually deliver to you guys and some of the tools and the strategies and the modalities that I share with you are amazing. Now, I'm going to be transparent. It's a $149 program. It's fucking amazing. You get great value. Is it going to heal all of your trauma? Absolutely not. Would it be ethical for me to give you a pre-recorded program that is a beginner's program that sends you deep into healing your trauma cycles? No, that would not be ethical. So if you want to do really deep somatic work, that is where Queen Alchemy or my immersion is absolutely the best place for you. And it is a safe place for you where you are going to be held and led properly. But that's not to say that Empoweredly Submissive isn't a great stepping stone. For many of you, you have found Empoweredly Submissive to be a really good starting point, and to also just dip your toes into what it's like doing a program of mine, to kind of get a little bit of an idea of what happens once you join a program. So if you haven't joined Empoweredly Submissive and you feel like that could be a great starting place for you, all the modules, the outline, what you'll get out of it, who it's for, etc., is on the website page, and you can just click the link below in the podcast episode. All right, let's get back into the show. So we have this whole problem where men feel like no matter what they do, a woman thinks they're not enough. And of course, on the flip side, we have this problem where women think no matter what he does, he is not like he's not enough. Men are not enough. They're not doing enough. They're not being enough. They're not enough, essentially. But no matter how much a man does, it is always wrong. And if you've read my book, you will have seen the survey that I did with men, and it's heartbreaking what these men are thinking. And more research is coming out with the same, especially in the dating kind of world, with this same evidence, the same qualitative evidence of what men are feeling and what women are feeling. And it's not that it's like, oh, it's men's problems to fix or it's women, it's both of us. Women need to stop degrading men and emasculating men publicly and privately. And men also need to stop taking that shit. That's what I'm going to say. Of course, there are the collection of men and the collection of women that are abusive, that are horrible people. We're not talking about them. We are talking about the good people, the good men, the good women. Women need to put down their armor. They need to stop ripping down men and thinking that like they're just fighting, for like some good thing. It's like, guys, we've gotten our rights. We have the same rights. Like, stop fighting. You are fighting for nothing anymore. The more that you continue to rip down men, to say these sorts of things in comments, you lose because you become bitter, angry, and resentful towards men. And then you wonder why dating is shit. You wonder why your sex life is shit. You wonder why you can't meet a healthy man. The reason why is because a healthy man isn't putting up with a woman that is making these kinds of comments to other really good men online. Now, I'll say this one thing, this one line, because it's the same, God, I'm like, what is happening this month? Some of you might have seen like the Aubrey Marcus thing. That is a different thing. I will not have time to do a podcast episode on that before I leave for maternity leave, but I definitely can do one when I come back. I've actually had a lot of questions in the past And now I'm like, all right, let's just do a fucking episode on this, on what are my thoughts on polyamory. So you guys can listen to that when I come back. We'll do that episode. I'll record that later in the year once I'm back from maternity leave with my little man. That is separate. I'm not talking about that. None of what I'm referencing is in regards to that. That is a whole separate issue. I'm simply talking about the men that are showing up online, clearly respecting women, clearly saying nice things about women, clearly being like, if she doesn't want to work, then I want to provide and protect for her. So many women are deeply, deeply wanting that. When we even look at the research, for example, of the fact that, you know, women that are the breadwinners are more likely to initiate divorce. Women that are breadwinners, like 41% of households, the woman is the breadwinner in the US. When you look at the research of women being breadwinners and how actually it can lead to negative circumstance, like negative outcomes in the sense of like the relationship, I'm like, that right there proves not that women shouldn't make money, that women want to not feel like the stress and the weight is on them. They don't want to feel like the man. I wouldn't have a job. I would not have had a job for this long. I would not have a New York Times bestselling book if what I'm saying on this episode isn't true, but it's true. So let's talk about, before we wrap up, I want to try and keep this episode short because I have to go, but what I want to say, before we wrap up, let's talk about what some of the women have said in response to this, because there's been some women that have gone very up in arms about this. And I will preface that these women are clearly the masculine in the relationship. They are clearly very, very like radical feminism. And so we obviously need to keep that in mind. And they are very triggered about it. And they are not addressing this from a loving space. They are addressing it from a very angry space. And more importantly, they haven't actually listened to what he said. So, and remember, what I've listened to is the full episode, and I've listened to obviously the real and never self. I don't know what else he's put out there, okay? But I'm just commenting on the things that actually have gone viral. So when women saying this is what leads to financial abuse, absolutely false. A man saying, if you don't want to work, I don't want you to work, I'll be the provider and protector, that is not what leads to financial abuse. Okay. If a man wants to provide for you and you do not want to work, that's called consent to not working and agreeing that he's the provider. Now, this is most likely going to be the case in marriages or de facto relationships as well. And in these situations, remember, ladies, like I thought we were educated here, and the women commenting on this, I'm like, I don't know whether you thought about this clearly. This is most likely to happen in marriages and de facto relationships where you literally have the law protecting you as a woman so that if the relationship was to end, it's not like you're left with no money and you're not going to become homeless, because that wouldn't happen unless you signed a prenup for the marriage where it said like if the relationship ended, I would get zero, but like you wouldn't fucking sign that if you're an educated woman that is choosing to let her man lead. And if you're listening to this episode, you're an educated woman. Like we can just make that assumption. We're educated enough to understand like you wouldn't sign that, okay? If he's financially abusing you, that's probably not the only way that the abuse is coming in. It's probably also coming in mental, emotional, hopefully not physical, but it could be physical. And that isn't a healthy man. This is clearly a regulated, level-headed man that has this podcast, right? And that's talking about this. A man providing for a woman does not equal financial abuse. Like the fact that that has been thrown out there, when I saw that, I was like, this is what I'm talking about. That's what I was saying at the beginning of the episode. Like when I saw that thrown out there, I'm like, oh my God, this is detrimental on women. And I say this because I used to be, some of you would know, I used to be that woman, that young woman that would think, oh, I can't let a man do anything for me because then if he does that, then like XYZ is going to happen, because I was fed this narrative that men were these horrible creatures, right? And then I had to be a good independent woman and a good feminist and blah, 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 blah. A man, ladies and gentlemen, a man providing for you does not equal financial abuse. Let's flip that. A woman being the breadwinner and providing does not equal financial abuse, right? They are two completely separate things. And the fact that they have been brought together is heartbreaking because of the amount of women that are now thinking from this fucking reel, like there's probably over 5,000 of them because there's 5,000 something comments, from this reel, the amount of women thinking, oh my God, I should not let my man be the provider and the protector, because what if he is going to financially abuse me? This is how this societal trauma happens. This is how this like third party trauma happens, is when we get these ideas from other people planted into our head as though they're truth when they are not the truth at all. So please, please, please understand, ladies, if your man wants to provide for you and wants to make the money, and you do not want to make the money, you would like to either, like, maybe you want to work part-time, maybe you want to be a stay-at-home mom, whatever that is, it's up to you. That is your choice. And if you feel really good with him being the provider and the protector, and if you don't, then obviously check in, like, is that because of like a control trauma response, or is it because actually, no, I really want to go out and make money? Then amazing, go out and make money. But if you would like him to be the provider and the protector, you have full permission, and that is a safe thing to do. You know, when people, it breaks my heart when women share like, I'm not the breadwinner, I love that my man provides, and then you just have these women in the comments, this is a separate reel, women in the comments being like, just wait till he goes bankrupt, just wait till he divorces you, just wait till he sleeps with his assistant. I'm like, why are women, it's always women, why are women doing this to other women? It's something like Queen Bee. In a sense, it's that Queen Bee syndrome. We are ripping down other women. We are projecting our pain onto other women and their happiness to make us feel better about ourselves. These women are feeling better about themselves. Just wait till he goes bankrupt. That makes them feel a little bit better about themselves. And if you're that woman that is commenting on these posts, these negative things, right? What a part of your brain might think, I'm helping to protect her, but you're not. You know what you're just doing? You're still mad that you didn't catch the red flags from your husband early on, or you're still mad that, you know, he did go bankrupt and you're still deeply in love with him, but you thought like, nope, this man's a failure, I have to leave him because he went bankrupt, right? You know, I'm not saying that if your husband goes bankrupt, you don't need to leave him, but I'm not saying that you do need to leave him either, because obviously every situation is completely different. But a man that is abusive, you know, and not letting a woman work because he wants control, that would lead to financial abuse along with other kinds of abuse. Okay. But that is different. That is a man that is saying, I'm not letting you work. You don't need to go to work. Like, I don't want you to go to work. I don't want you to have a job. So he's saying that from this place of control, not let me make her life better and easier. That could lead to financial abuse, along with, though, definitely mental and emotional, I would say, that comes with that 99% of the time. Okay. And most importantly, getting into situations of men that are financially abusing you, and also emotionally and mentally, and hopefully not, but potentially physically abusing you, that is not because of men being sexist and as a whole, and the patriarchy or anything like that. That's not because of that. When women find themselves in these situations, it's because either like to their nervous system, that's quote unquote normal because of their trauma, or they were love bombed and blindsided, right? Because shit happens, because there are yucky people in the world. But those men and those women, but we'll talk about men for now, those men that abuse women, that financially abuse women, that emotionally, that is not the patriarchy or, you know, sexism or misogyny. Yes, they are probably misogynistic. Yes, that man is probably sexist, but he's abusing for other reasons, right? And so when we make these generalizations of men that want to provide and protect, that's going to lead to financial abuse. That is a very, very naive thing to say. And it's not rooted in an understanding of relationships, trauma, men. It's not rooted in fucking understanding misogyny or patriarchy at all. Because it's funny when women say like the patriarchy, as though like just, let me just say this. Men are also negatively influenced by the quote unquote patriarchy. There's also a lot of positives to the quote unquote patriarchy, and there's negatives. So when we just throw out these terms without actually putting context to them, it often can do more damage than good because people are just taking it through their own filter. And so all these women that are hearing this other woman saying, well, how are you going to pay her superannuation? Is she going to get an allowance? Blah, blah, blah. Like this, there was a particular woman that was like replying back. And let me just try and find the reel actually.
I don't even know what to say. So my questions for Chris are, will you pay her superannuation? Will you support her financially while she rebuilds her skills to re-enter the workforce? Will they make decisions about their money together? Will you be paying her an allowance?
Okay, so I'm not going to keep going. So the superannuation, basically it's an Australian thing for like your retirement money, okay? And so I just love how we've taken a 30-second reel and gone, will you be paying her superannuation? Again, I'm going to assume, because I'm like a healthy person sitting here with like, a good filter of the world, we're going to assume, and like I said, this isn't like, oh, they've been dating 2 weeks and this woman's like, yeah, I'll let you provide and protect for me, because that would be fucking dumb. Okay, that would be dumb. Okay, and really like the likelihood of a woman doing that is pretty slim. Okay, but if they're married or in a de facto relationship, then, and I think we all know what a de facto relationship is. Basically, a de facto relationship is like once you've been dating them, I think now in Australia, the law is 2 years, which has many problems actually about that. But I think it used to be 4. I'm not sure what it is in the US. I'm assuming it's probably 4 in the US. Basically, it's once you've been living with somebody for a period of time, like your romantic partner, you essentially have legal rights as though you're married, even though you're not actually married. That's the quickest way. You can Google it if you want to. But again, the law is protecting you, okay? So, if the two of you are married and you plan to be married forever, then I don't know how every country does their retirement fund or whatnot, but he's looking after you, right? So why do you need to be worried about your retirement fund if you're planning to be together? And if you got divorced, for example, that's why the law is there. And so it's like, a lot of people these days, they don't want to get married because they want the law and blah, blah, blah. But it's also like, remember the law is there to protect you as well. Yes, the law, like there's problems with the legal system sometimes and blah, blah, blah. But the law is also there to protect you. And so we don't want to forget that. We don't want to think that we're just like out on our own as women. Like, no, we are protected by, the country that we live in. And obviously that protection and the provisions of all of that are different state to state in the US, I think. I'm not sure with marriage, actually, to be honest. And obviously country to country is different, but we're not just like out on our own to fend for ourselves, where if we got a divorce, it's like, all right, that's it. I'm homeless and I have no retirement scheme and all of that kind of stuff. And then again, like, are you going to pay an allowance? I feel like these comments are made from this very angry place where it's like, if you listened to him, he clearly wants to provide for her. So maybe there wouldn't be like a quote unquote allowance, but she could spend whatever she wants because that's what he wants for her. Or maybe there is an allowance or whatever it is. And that's completely like, that's up to them to decide. And the way that she's saying it is fear mongering for women, of women now thinking, fuck, okay, so if I like, as you probably heard, so if I choose to be a stay-at-home mom, the comment that then this woman said was, are you going to help her re-enter the workforce? Okay, so do you know what that now has been internalized like for a lot of women? Oh, if I exit the workforce to be a stay-at-home mother for a while, I'm going to have problems re-entering the workforce. Now, to an extent, there probably is a truth to that, right? And I've heard about that there can be a truth to that. I'm going to wrap up here, guys. This has been a juicy episode, to say the least. Olivia was like, just record like a 15, 20-minute number. Here we are at 49 minutes. So I feel like, though, this was a really good thing for like lots of talking points. If you haven't already picked up my book, please pick it up. If you haven't left a review, please leave a review once you've read it, obviously, because it's so obvious when someone leaves a review and they haven't actually read it. And I'm just deeply grateful for all of you guys supporting me along the podcast journey, talking about these things. I know it can be hard to be sharing these things on like your Instagram stories and the podcast on your Instagram stories, because you then have like people that get rubbed the wrong way. But if you did really resonate with this episode, and if you also just felt like wait, I want my man to provide and protect for me when you saw that viral reel, then please share this episode on your Instagram stories so that more women can actually realize, oh, it is safe for me to have this desire for my man to lead, provide, and protect.